This is not going to be an easy video for two reasons. One, I'm still waking up. And two, it involves a little bit of math, of which I'm not even super solid on. So what I want to try and show is how essentially you can get dimensionality from just going really fast or going really big, okay? This idea that emergence can happen by just having a lot of stuff, essentially. You can get something that you didn't have before. Like, if you have enough points on the x-axis, you can jump into the y-axis, right? Or if you have enough area, you can get a volume, right? But every area has zero volume. But if you add up enough of them, you end up with some amount of volume, right? So every idyllic 2D plane has no area. It has no thickness. But if you add up enough of them, you can get a thickness, okay? There's a few ways to think about this. The simple one is that there actually is no continuous nature of things, and everything is discrete. And so actually when you point at something, you can't perfectly get it right on that dimension because it has a width because of uncertainty. So you can't exactly know where you are, and that width is, that tiny bit of width is the amount that ends up getting summed together when you put it all together to get the dimension, right? Because you actually can't have something perfectly flat because of the discrete nature of the universe, that it is chunked. That's one possibility, but here's the interesting one that I want to talk about. It comes down to different sizes of infinity, okay? So if you look at dimensionality, in many ways, if you go down a dimension, it is an infinite number of those things which create the next dimension, right? So a line is an infinite number of points. A plane is an infinite number of lines. A volume is an infinite number of planes, okay? So when the outer dimension can be viewed as a point, or the point can kind of explode into an infinite number of them, you can jump a dimension. So let me say how this relates to math, and how by just counting, you can go all the way through all the dimensions. On a number line, you can get all the dimensions. So there are more numbers between 0 and 1 than there are integers, the counting numbers. Now, I don't want to prove that. It's part of an area of math that was studied, and it's got a super cool history, and there's lots of YouTube videos that explain this. But what I want to use is I want to take that and I want to use it in this description. So because there are more numbers between 0 and 1 than there are on all the integers, there's not just a few more, there's infinitely many more. So all of the numbers, the integers essentially, can function as a point in this new infinite space, right? Because when zoomed appropriately, the size of these two relative to themselves is exactly the same as the difference between a point and infinity. Right? So the difference between a single number and infinity in the integers is the same as the entire size of the integers to the numbers between 0 and 1. As soon as you have a level of infinity, that is what's implied. And so what this is kind of getting at is that dimensionality is not as cleanly boxed as we think. And emergence can work in this space. So what I'm wanting to get at is this idea of how if you zoom in close enough, you think you're on a line, right? You think the earth is flat if you zoom in far enough. But if you zoom out, you see it has curvature. I think this is the fundamental nature of the universe, right? It is the way that we get emergence. A lot of this depends on your perspective. And if you take a volume, right, and you zoom out far enough, it becomes a point. An infinite volume, if you zoom out far enough, if you can snap past that, it becomes a point. In any point, if you can zoom in infinitely continuously, becomes an infinite volume. So what I'm trying to get at here is that the fundamental nature of the universe is such that contained within any substance, you're naturally going to get this layered dimensionality and richness and complexity. It's the fundamental nature of the relation of logic, of what things have to be. It's just the fabric of what is. So I'm not sure if that clicks with anybody else, or even if it will click with me when I watch it back. But I wanted to share that this morning. I had the thought last night, and I do think that it's starting to connect some of these ideas that I've been having about, if you go far enough on a number line, you get a new dimension, right? That's this idea that I've really been playing with and sitting with, and it really seems to be the way things are, even though it seems in the beginning very counterintuitive. So love you guys. Let me know. Nobody watches these videos, it's fine. But if you do, let me know. See ya.